I don't. Can I watch?
Yeah, just gonna split a little wood. You ready?
Yeah. And Josh is batting about 50% light.
Just don't cut a toe off right now.
I will try really hard not to. Whoa!
Whoa.
See, about to my finger.
Or a finger.
The chimney needs to be clean so it doesn't pull air very good.
Do you want to come light it? To show how it's done?
God damn it!
No, I'm gonna enjoy this.
Somebody else can go ahead.
I'm gonna enjoy the. Can we cuss on this podcast?
Oh, absolutely. But we try not to.
Okay,
for the first couple of minutes.
Okay, you can bleep this out, but I'm gonna enjoy the shit show that I'm watching right now for building a fire.
Yeah.
One of my wife's and my favorite, I do not like reality TV at all,
Hate it.
except with one exception. Yeah. I like Naked and Afraid.
Yeah, I do too.
Really?
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like about the only one I'll watch.
And so my wife
That's
loves
not
it
what I
too.
expected was coming.
So that's the stuff that we watch. And when I watch people building a fire, that's the first thing I think about every time.
You're picturing me naked right now?
Well, kinda.
God damn.
I mean, your calves are showing.
Well, I do have some pretty impressive calves. That's about it.
Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
Let's just leave it at that.
Nobody really needs to know the rest.
No.
Or I guess some people can know the rest.
There might be a calf correlation. There might not. Let's just leave it at that.
Maybe. Well, it's that 20 to 25,000 steps a day, man.
Yeah,
not exaggerating.
Shipping stuff out of the SVA warehouse.
Dude, I'm running all the
Well, I had one earlier, but yeah.
Bynum was Bynum was trying to talk to Forrest about starting his own business, and he's like, "Have you seen this guy run around here? I don't want to work that much."
Jeff said that?
Bynum was talking to Forrest about starting his own business because he was chatting.
When did you start? I mean, it was probably like age 2, unintentionally. But when did you start working in the pro shop with your dad?
Well, before originally it wasn't a pro shop; it was
we can
a
talk
general sporting goods store.
Off payroll and on. I know I was here when it was a general sporting goods store.
So I started
20
moving boxes around
5 years ago.
Yeah, I started moving boxes around when I was in like kindergarten. I started working behind the counter at like 9. And I was the archery expert at 11 or 12. Like those were fun conversations to have with adult men.
Looking for is
a 12-year-old
archer.
I remember the first day my manager Dave actually had said, "All right, you're the head archery guy today." I'm like, "All right, whatever, fine." I was terrified, but yeah. And the first guy walks in and goes, "I'm looking for your archery expert." And Dave points at me and he looks back at Dave, like, "Really?" He's like, he looks at me and goes, "Give that kid 10 minutes.
Give him a chance.
Give him 10 minutes." Right. That guy walked back over and 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, said, "That is the smartest kid I have ever met in my life."
Wow, there's a humble brag.
Right. He's like, I've never heard more ever. Right. I'm pretty modest, But no, that broke the ice for me a little bit to where I was like, okay, I'm fine. I didn't know what I'm talking about. And it still took 4 to 6 years to be taken seriously by the people in the area.
Right.
But by the time I was 17, 18, nobody questioned my knowledge at that point.
They were happy to come in.
Like, oh yeah.
Or his calf size.
Or my calf size.
Or calf size.
My calves might have been, oh yeah, here we we
Jerrod went premature on us.
Official
clink, clink.
Official drinking podcast for the first time.
Open. I've had two plugs of the
He got off the plane, needed a little break. In fact, hang on.
Yeah, I was ready.
I should probably, hang on. Give me a second. I don't do the vodka.
Oh, he's getting a bourbon.
He's going to have a tug?
My guess is we're talking. Well, I hope he's not having a tug. I hope he's having a pull. There's a difference between a tug and a pull, Tim.
Well, yeah, but they could be synonyms. A pull could be a tug, but a tug isn't necessarily a pull.
In this context. In this context, not at all.
Do you have any tequila in there?
I do not. I would have got some if I knew you'd want some. So
I shot him a text about tequila.
You said tequila, rum, or vodka, and I already had a bottle of vodka, so I stopped there.
I just said clear liquors.
What's your favorite, Jerrod?
Vodka, just because I never get a headache on clear liquors. If I drink very much with cloudy, I'm in trouble. Ooh. Headache.
Normally don't do that. Usually put something in it.
He's gonna be loose, dude.
Oh man,
he's good at talking without.
Hey, if somebody's got to identify if this is going off the rails at some point.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Do we want to make a safe word?
Pumpernickel.
Yeah, but can it be like the safe word on was it Euro Trip?
What was the safe word?
There's no way anybody could pronounce
say
it.
That's right.
You're just
That
not
one.
gonna.
Do you remember the beginning of that when it was Scotty Doesn't Know with Matt Damon? Scotty.
Matt Damon's
wanna
like
talk
a rocker
about
with like alt stuff
Yeah,
everywhere.
just skinhead. Oh yeah, that was
awesome.
so good. He's
It's like the weirdest role that Matt Damon has ever played.
yeah. I'd made this song for my loveliest little sex puppet,
Fiona.
And the guy's girlfriend walks up there, and his name's Scotty.
Scotty doesn't
know. Banging in the back of my van, and Scotty doesn't know. Scotty
rough.
doesn't know. Don't tell Scotty, because Scotty doesn't know. It was so good.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Any person on planet Earth is going to feel bad for Scotty.
Oh god. Yeah, I got to rewatch that. Just that sequence. God, it was so good.
Pretty good movie.
Oh yeah, tatted up, and it was so good. I was like, "Oh my god, that's Matt Damon."
Like studs, like
He had studs,
piercings everywhere.
Oh, it was so good.
Dude, the stuff is solid.
Yeah, well, there's a couple more in there if you decide you get a little frisky.
Yeah.
I know you don't
I
drink
might
much.
be able
so.
to go back for back.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff.
Jerrod, last time I saw you, we were knee deep in Alaskan bush.
Hey, careful. We want to make sure that that's Briar's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were referring to
It's
structure.
been man, that was an awesome trip. I thought it was 2 years ago. But it's only a year ago.
You've lived a lot of years. You've known Jerrod longer than me. You want to give him a quick intro?
Oh God, I've known Jerrod since he became you were the general manager of Trophy Taker. Is that your title? And that was in what year? I mean, it's been so long. 2002. And I was we had started Spokane Valley Archery in 2000.
Oh, really? It was
Originally?
that close. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was 2000. So when you didn't actually know me from before when we were a general sporting goods store. But yeah, and I want to say the first time we actually really talked, we were at a banquet or something at a trade show.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
Probably ATA or something.
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
one of those, and Dan invited us to sit at your table, and that's when I met you.
Yeah.
And who'd have thought that after all that time, I'd have my weekly call and bitch about your boss moments with with you, and maintained our relationship over these years to watch your success grow and me do a little better than I did, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, no, it was neat. I mean, Dan brought me into the industry. I always give Dan Evans credit for that. Like, I wouldn't have had, in fact, I literally took this call today, believe it or not. I can't even remember who I was talking to. But they're like, how did you get started in this? I was like, luck, who you know. I mean, you know what I mean? And wound up with an opportunity to work in an industry that I loved. I think probably the most painful thing about that transition was Dan looking at me when I was shooting a bow and saying, you're a pretty good shot with a bow, but you'll never be a great shot with the habits you have. I was like, ouch.
Yeah.
That's like keeping it real.
Dan's a bit of a blunt instrument.
Yeah, he can be.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you want to get better, you can, you're going to get worse before you get better. Mm-hmm. And then I think you and I have talked about this over the years, literally monthly probably, or at least several times a year, where the process of becoming a good shot or a good bow tuner, all that kind of stuff it's a lifelong pursuit. It's not,
That's right.
You don't arrive. That's pretty much like everything in life.
Right.
You never arrive. You're just constantly on a journey to get better.
If you're going to improve, you're always going to be constantly progressing to get better in that.
So yeah, Dan brought me into the industry and introduced me to you and your dad in particular. And of course, Dan worked for, what year would you think Dan worked?
Dan
for
worked at
your
Outdoor
dad?
Sportsman from probably like 1994, 95.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there till 96, 97. He was there a couple years. I think it was 2 years, 3 years. And we were making fall-away arrow rests out of existing products back then.
Yeah, flipping like golden keys.
Gold Key Futuras, the particularly the 3D Rovers and the Platinum Premiers.
Yep.
It had the cage over brackets. They were a little easier to work with. There was easier things to attach to find something to put a cord on, so it would pull it up, pull it back. The Golden Premier had the original TM100 dowel, so there was less stuff to actually fasten on, so we didn't use that one. But yeah, he had the foresight to look at that and go, nobody's making this as a product. I probably ought to think about that.
Actually make it a product.
This is actually
Instead
a better
of
product than what they
a
make.
third-party fix.
Right, yeah.
Probably hard for you to think about fall-away arrow rests not being a mainstay in the archery realm, right?
Well, pretty much
'Cause at the
anything
time they
relevant
weren't.
is.
It did not exist.
No, it was a dual fork rest that you could adjust the width of it and the tension of it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of archaic, but it actually worked well when done correctly. But when you did a fall away, you couldn't put twist on the fletching.
Right.
And twist on the fletching would stabilize a fixed blade broadhead, which anybody out west was shooting because they weren't legal anywhere. You couldn't
most
shoot
of the
nothing but
states
that.
out west at
Yeah.
that time.
100%. Like across the board, everybody had to use fixed blades.
Right.
So it became relevant. So for a while there, you were trying to put helical, but not too much, so you could still get it through the launcher and not
Or
hit
shoot
it.
a fatter arrow shaft.
Yep.
Go up to a 24, 26
Well, and the necessity of that probably came about because of small diameter arrows. When they started making carbon arrows, they were a lot smaller. And it's like, well, I can't twist my fletching at all,
Right.
and get through that. What do I do?
Yep.
You'd like take the blade launcher and grind it down as little as you could, so there was little contact
Little
anywhere,
tiny.
so you could still twist it and clear it, and hopefully only nick one side of the vein when it went out.
Yep.
Yeah, it was just it was wild that took so long. And originally there was a product called the Barner Fall Away.
Yep. I
Yeah,
remember
and that was earlier, but you had to cock it.
That was a predecessor to the Montana
Free
Black
fall,
Gold
free
trap
fall
door, right?
Trap door. Well, it was called a free fall first, and
Yep,
then a
from
trap door.
Barber. Yeah, and then it.
Well, no, the Black Gold called it two different things.
Oh, really?
Black Gold called it a free fall, then a trap door, or something like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Barner called
I remember both.
Barner called it a fall away rest. Like that was what
That
it
was
was.
it.
That was the name.
I
yeah.
like that. That's the good old days when you can name a product what it did.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
This is the fire starter.
Yeah.
No, it's
Boom.
a lighter.
Oh, it's really a fire starter, authentically. Yeah, I mean, it was. It's another one of those where you look at it and go, "Why did that take so long?"
Right.
Right?
Those are always the best ideas, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Why hasn't anybody else already done this?
Right? Yeah, 100%. But yeah, that was your start in this industry.
Yeah, that would have been 02.
Yeah,
Very thankful for that, but had a huge learning curve. Again, from shooting to product development, you name it. But during that process, always, to be honest, every single time I had a question about product development, etc., you were one of the first people I called,
yeah.
if not the first person.
Well, I can't tell you for how many years I barked at Danny needed a bigger launcher on that stupid thing. Like right out of the gate, it was like that launcher's way too small. Like nobody's gonna. It took him like 4 years to change that. Well, I'm sure I wasn't the only guy.
Yeah, because I think we introduced the Shaky Hunter in 02.
Yeah,
Pretty sure. And he put my first fall away on my bow in 98, the first trophy taker.
right.
Came down to my house, and I was working at a youth ranch for troubled teens. And he came down, and I told him, I was like, well, I don't think you can put one on my bow because I had the plastic coated cables back in the day. Remember that?
Yeah. Yep. Oh,
It was
yeah.
a Dart
I've
and
repaired
Lightning,
a ton
I
of
think it
those,
was.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he was always tying through the cable, and I was like, hey, this one's like steel cables with plastic coating.
You can serve on that.
What's that?
You can serve on that.
Yeah, that's what he did. He comes down to my house, him and his wife Karen, and they came in and tied a rest on there. And he's like, hey, I really want you to try this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I finally, because again, to your point with helical and all the other kind of fletching issues that you have, I could never get a bow to tune the way I wanted it to. And I never felt like it could shoot as well as I thought it should.
Yeah.
And immediately out of the gate, I was like, holy crap, this is game changing.
Well, you look back on all that stuff back then, how archaic
Oh,
the equipment was in comparison
well,
to
steel
today.
cables? Well, I guess the pro of a steel cable is it doesn't creep.
It's true. Well, no, it does though. It actually.
Really?
Oh yes, absolutely. You can get them. But like, if you remember the Martin system when they had steel cables,
Yep.
they actually had a split. Like Martin did so many incredibly
They
intelligent
were
things,
innovators.
way ahead of
Big time.
anybody else.
Yep.
Like they had the yoke kind of almost similar to how Matthew's system works now, where it free floats internally,
because it had the loop through.
and they had a timing screw on it.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's a
but
little
yes,
screw
they
on it.
did.
You could time it or untime it. And that was because those cables would stretch. You can also twist a cable. You can shorten or lengthen a steel cable because it is twisted under there. And you could unhook it and forcibly put it around one way or another to adjust your
And
timing.
get a little bit of different
Yep.
timing.
You could change the length a little bit.
Can we just celebrate the fact we don't have to do that anymore, though?
Oh, man. I
And that strings in general don't creep and move the way they used
oh,
to.
God. It was so much work.
It was weekly.
Oh, constantly. Yeah, like you'd go shoot your bow for a session and check your timing
Yep.
because it was
Damn.
off. It was so bad. That's when I first started actually making my own strings
And it
because
was
I was so
all
frustrated
dual
with it.
cams at the point. Martin did have the original solo cam, though.
The first solo cam?
It was a weird little bottom solo cam.
Oh,
with
the
recurve.
Dynacam.
Dynacam, that's right.
Dynacam. Yeah, and that's truly the only true single cam ever because there's only one thing on it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a fixed limb on the top and one cam on the bottom.
Again, but back to your point, all the things
I think
that
I have
Martin
one of those.
did,
I think I have one of those at the shop somewhere.
no way.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure somebody brought one in and wanted us to sell it or
Oh, yeah,
whatnot.
you
And I was
gotta
like,
keep
no,
that
I think I got to
stuff.
keep that. That's crazy old. Got to hang on to
the
that.
museum.
Right.
But yeah, you look back at that, and then it basically evolved into all twin cam type stuff.
Right.
Timing was always an issue. And literally, if you spent more than a week and didn't tweak them, it wasn't shooting well
Right. 100%.
with those old materials.
Oh man, it was so bad. Oh, when they came out with S4, it doesn't stretch. No, it just breaks in half randomly.
Boom.
Like poof. It's like I had somebody blow up a cable or a limb and it stuck in the wall right next to my head in those times. A Martin. So he's shooting a Fury in the techno lane because we had a techno hunt over there.
Yep.
And Larry's standing right next to him. He's like, "It's making a funny noise. Can you come listen to it?" I stick my head up right next to him, listening.
God.
Kaboom! Chunk of limb stuck in the wall right by my head. And I'm like, "Yeah, I think your limb's bad.
We got to do something different.
This is not smart." Yeah, I'm amazed I haven't gotten hurt over the years for how many.
Well, I think you're immune to it too. Do you remember the one time I pulled back a bow and it went pop? I looked over at Josh and he was just cool. He wasn't like shocked. He wasn't like, oh shit, that happened. He just cool as a cucumber, man. I think you've probably seen that enough to.
I've had some pretty bad instances.
I dry
the
fired
years.
my bow last year. Came and told Josh I dry fired my bow, and he just okay. Let's check it out.
Let's figure it out.
What? So?
Let's check it out.
What's your point?
You're not the first. You won't be the last.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. He's like, did you make a good shot? Of course I made a. No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, it went
man.
right where I imagined it was going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Did
The hell
that
was
break?
holding
Did
right
that
on
break
target.
like
Yeah, it was
money?
clean. Yeah.
Pow! Dude, one of the funniest ones I ever had. A dude was in the range. His name was Steve Hauser. I haven't seen him in forever. I'm not sure what
Cousin
happened
to
to him,
Dougie,
but-
or?
No, not at all. But he's standing there, turns around, having a conversation with somebody, right? Turns back, pulls his bow back, holds in on his 3-spot target. Bang! And he's looking. He's looking for his arrow. Like,
I have
Steve,
one of
you
these.
didn't put an arrow in it.
Yep.
He's like, oh, that was so good.
I have 3 amazing dry fire stories.
Oh, let's have it.
One,
All of them with a bow.
all with a bow.
right.
Yes. I have a few hang fires and muzzle loader stories too, but these are all archery stories.
Yeah.
The first one, our pro shop guy at Trophy Taker, I won't mention his name because I don't want to throw him under the bus, but I love you, buddy, and you know I do. The Hoyt rep comes in and brings in all the new bows for the year. And we're all kind of, shooting arrows down range, whatever else. And he draws the bow back with fingers with no arrow in it, and he kind of pulls it away from his face a little bit, just kind of looking at cam timing and all that kind of stuff. And Dan Evans says, "Hey, there's not an arrow in that bow." And he's like, "I know." And literally at that time, it peeled out of his fingers, blew the peep, clear down range, blew it out. And he stands there looking. I laughed till I cried, like literally almost peed my pants. Because our pro shop guy literally dry fired one of the Hoyt reps sample bows
So good.
in our own shooting range.
Oh, so good.
And then I was working late one night at Trophy Taker, and one of the guys working for me comes walking into my office and he goes, "Can you come help me find my arrow?" I swear to God, this is the honest truth.
I believe you.
And I look up and I'm like, it literally was like 9:00 at night. I was working really late and he was in there just shooting. Sure. And we start walking out there and I look down at his hip quiver and he's got like, normally you have like 2, 2, and 2. There's like 3 slots for your arrows. There's like 6 total arrows in there. And I look down and there's only, he's missing an arrow. Or no, he's not missing an arrow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I look down at it. I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. We go out and we're like looking down range, like kind of pulling the targets apart and everything. And finally I look at him. I'm like, "Do you think you dry fired your bow?" And he's like, he looks down at his arrows.
Counts the arrows.
He literally pulled back, aimed by himself, cracked a shot off or a lack of shot, comes into my office and asks for help. And then I go out there and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't think you shot an arrow, pal."
Yeah. And how much time did you guys spend looking before you said that?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay, all right.
It wasn't long. It was
Yeah.
just all of a sudden, I look back down at his quiver and I'm like, I don't think he's missing an arrow, which means I don't think he loaded one. But I've seen that at 3D. I guarantee you have too.
Watch people do it. Sure.
A couple times I've stopped guys at full draw with no arrow in and gone, hey, let down. And it's like, and I've done it. I drew my bow once. I've never dry fired a bow. Man, knock on wood. There's wood everywhere. Thank God. I've never dry fired a bow. But I drew my bow once at a 3D shoot with no arrow in it and I think it was Dan Evans. I think he's like, hey, you don't have an arrow in there. I'm like, whoo.
Thanks, buddy.
That would have been ugly.
Way to save it.
I'd had to go back and buy a hamburger early.
Yeah, I bet.
But no, bows have come so far. I think that's probably the one thing that archery hunters aren't appreciative enough.
You used to have to shoot every day.
Oh, 100%.
Oh,
Whether
had
you
to.
were shooting traditional, like I'm looking over at your wall
no matter
right now,
what.
You got traditional bows hanging all over there, shooting gloves, you name it. I love that, by the way.
That's all my dad's stuff.
That's cool.
I gave those gold medalists right there.
Yeah.
I gave one of them to Joel Turner when he was here.
No.
Said just go kill something with it. That's all I ask.
Dude.
It's
That's
like I
goosebumps.
just want to know. I just want to know that it's being used,
Yeah.
and you're going to kill something with it because that's what my dad would have wanted.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, whether you were shooting that or a compound bow back in those days, whether it was string issues, timing issues, you name it, you had to shoot way more religiously, which was probably a good thing for archery.
Oh yeah, yeah. In general, it forced it to be a lifestyle because you had to dedicate the time.
Right.
And I shot every day. No way around it.
You were an archer, not an archery hunter
Correct.
necessarily.
Correct.
You were an
Now-
archer first,
yeah.
or should have been.
Yeah.
If you were going to be successful, you had to be an archer.
And nowadays you can throw it in the closet for 9 months, 10 months, pull it out for a little bit before hunting season, shoot a little bit, make sure there's nothing wrong with it, and go hunting. It's pretty easy. Like my cousin. I hope you were listening, you scumbag. Shoot your bow.
Dirt ball.
Just because you got access to me doesn't mean you shouldn't practice, you dirt ball.
Well, I'm going to double down on that and say that the trend toward legalizing crossbows, I think Minnesota's going to go legal this year across the board.
Oh, boy.
I hate seeing that, not because I think that people that have shoulder disabilities, which are very, very real, should
and
not
common.
have access to crossbows. But in general, a crossbow is not a bow.
It should be a different
It's a different
season.
mechanism,
It's a
man.
different
It is.
season. It's
I
not.
mean, can you imagine hunting and not having to draw your bow? Like,
Yeah.
I'm with you because I grew up in Michigan.
Yep.
And Michigan didn't have crossbows be legal. And October 1st, you could start archery hunting. And if you were archery hunting October 1st, where I lived, you were ahead of the game. Like that, you probably had a 10-day window where you could deer hunt pretty well because these deer hadn't started gotten the massive pressure they got.
Yep.
And then that's not the case anymore. There was a small amount of people who bow hunted, and now there's a mega population of people who crossbow hunt because they can. And the average shot I heard in Michigan at that time was like 27 yards. That included rifle season.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's true or not. Like, that could be pulling
Bro
out of hot
science?
air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
But
young Jamie to check that stat.
Yeah. Knowing what I know about all over Michigan, it's generally tight windows. People are hunting over bait. Why wouldn't it be 27 yards?
Right. Mhm.
So, and that includes all the seasons. So if you make that a crossbow season, all of a sudden, you're basically rifle hunting October 1st. You're not, but you're a lot closer than you would be if you're bow hunting.
Yeah.
Well, I know this. We have muzzleloader season and general firearm season anywhere that has both, right?
Yeah.
There's not just they don't lump those together. And
Right.
nor do I think that traditional shouldn't have its own season.
I would agree with that.
It really should.
The challenge I have with traditional archery versus muzzleloader, and I'm going to get myself in all kinds of trouble here with
you're
what
good.
I'm going to say over the next
There's
10
only
minutes.
like a little over 2,000 subscribers. You're probably fine.
Perfect. All right. Well, hopefully these 2,000 subscribers want to make hunting hard again like I do.
They're good. They're
'Cause
good.
that's where I'm
Red-blooded
going.
Americans, dude.
Yeah. But the only challenge I have with like making an traditional archery only season is that there are a lot of physical limitations that people have. Shoulders suck.
Yes.
Like literally the biological mechanism of the human shoulder, back, hip, like knees, you name it, they suck. And so many people would be ruled out if they had something that didn't have any let-off mechanism at all. But having said that, I do really believe that we've made it too easy. And the conversation, even in our lifetime, and we're young. Well,
Sure. We're
I guess
medium.
That's not fair. So
We're medium, Jerrod.
I saw Tim look at me with a raised eyebrow. Tim?
No snarky comments.
You know, the kids have a term these days. They call it gray bush.
Gray bush.
Okay, gray bush aside. But no, I mean,
Yeah.
I look at what's happened in the, say, 30 years of passionate archery that
Right.
I've spent.
Yeah.
And how much easier it is to kill stuff today with a bow than it was 30 years ago, to tune a bow, to get broadheads, arrows, all the components, everything to work together. And I do think we've made it a little too easy. And then what happens is harvest statistics go up or harvest success goes up, opportunity goes down. It has to.
Yep.
If I'm a big game manager in the state of, well, we're in Washington now, but any state, if harvest success goes up, you have to start mitigating that a little bit.
You have to get that number back down in control.
Season,
yeah. Without removing the revenue.
Being a stats guy, has the harvest?
Oh yeah.
Has it rose?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've shortened the seasons. They've moved them out of inopportune times. Yep. They've tried to make the equipment harder to use, relegate the rules of that, things of that nature, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't said it yet, but Jerrod's literally an expert in statistics and harvest statistics.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert.
What is your technical title now?
I would call you the cheese. Let me title him first. I would call you the cheese at Hunting Pool. And I got to pick your brain for a week while we were in Alaska, and you're very encyclopedia-esque with hunting information. So, and I'm sure it all flows downstream. You know what I mean?
Just for a technical standpoint,
it actually flows upstream to me. Thankfully, like I'm not being humble here. I am surrounded by way smarter. Yeah, I would say that way smarter people than me as it relates to understanding all of the data that we consume and kind of repurpose for the hunting community. So at Hunt and Fool, our kind of goal is like, hey, it's complicated. Every state has 120 to 170 page rule booklet.
A very complicated rule book.
At least one, right?
It's
you got
intimidating.
states like Idaho where it kicks out your deer, elk, and antelope regs separate from your moose, sheep, and goat regs and all this other kind of stuff. If you, in aggregate, you're talking like 200 pages a year on average. And what we're trying to do is just kind of condense all that data. And I have teammates that, like I said, again, are way smarter than me pushing that data uphill. So I hear it and I can regurgitate it because I can remember it. But yeah, no, it's honestly, statistically speaking, there's no question that we're better at harvesting wildlife today than we are. And why wouldn't we be?
Right.
We have better gear. We have
I would
better
hope so.
technology. All of the things. I remember a time where, and again, this isn't that long ago. That's what's scary to me.
It's not.
Like in the early 2000s, if somebody wrote an article and said that they had shot something over 40 yards with a bow, they were very likely going to get called under the microscope of ethics to be like, you creep,
the ethics
you
police,
criminal, right?
Yeah.
And now, whether it's a gun at 900 yards, I can't tell you the number of people that walk up into my booth at, say, the Hunt Expo in Salt Lake, which I love that show and the great people, and be like, yeah, my daughter killed an elk at 780 yards last year. And I'm not making a unilateral judgment against that because it is legal, and I don't begrudge anybody who takes a legal route. But I do think that what happens is in general seasons, and I'm going to be super specific here, limited entry, hard to draw, once in a lifetime tags. I don't care what you use. Josh, I don't care if you use a grenade launcher. You go kill your
Do they got a season for that?
when you finally draw your mountain goat tag in Washington State, go kill your goat however it means, because they're managing it for 100% success realistically. But when we're talking about general seasons, we do need to make it harder, in my opinion. I don't care if it's with a bow or a muzzle loader or a centerfire rifle. Across the board, I think it needs to be a little tougher again, like it used to be, and it's only a couple decades old.
Right.
The challenge is you kind of limit innovation. It's happened in the golf industry where they said, hey, this is how clubs can be built. If you said that about archery or rifles or muzzleloaders or whatever, you limit innovation, which is something that's naturally occurring. But I guess I just don't know what the fair way to limit that innovation would be.
Well, that's why I want to be super specific. I still want that innovation and the sales to happen.
Yeah.
Right? I want the long-range scope manufacturers that are Bluetoothing a scope, a digital scope, a readout in a digital scope to your rangefinder, that when you click that, 22-degree downslope at 369 yards, that it plants a dot that you can still hold spot on. I want that to happen. But I think it should happen in select cases. And I think when it comes to general season, I think it should be hard. When it comes to you drawing... what's a great tag if here in Washington and you wanted to draw your best elk tag, what would it be, Josh?
Oh God, isn't that
It's the blues.
It's the blues. Yeah, it's the blues. Although if you can draw a bull tag out of turnbull, it's pretty good too.
Yeah, and there's a couple West Side ones that are pretty cool too. But
there's a
better not
couple.
to talk
Point
about
being,
it.
when you sit on the sidelines
Yeah.
and you finally get your number called and you get to go hunt one of those like elite
Super
units,
premiums.
I don't care what you use. I want you to have a 1,000-yard gun.
Sure.
I just think during general season we have to make it tough enough that we don't hurt ourselves and the potential recruitment for new people coming in.
So your solution to this problem is to make the majority of tags available harder equipment to hunt with.
Normalize it a little.
If they're easy tags to get, yes.
Got it.
And
So
I don't care what
you want to
weapon you're
restrict
using.
you want to restrict equipment a little more on a general tag.
Yeah, and
To lower their
since
success
I'm
rate instead of
already out
lowering
on
the
a
season.
huge limb with a saw. Like I'll admit this, like I'm cutting my own nose off to spite my face, and I don't mean to.
Well, let's clarify something.
'cause
We
I
have
work with
a lot of
great-
problems. We have a lot of problems, and we got to come up with some kind of solution that most people aren't going to like.
Yep.
So let's clarify that first. Go ahead.
And we honestly at Huntin' Fool work with some of the best long range, whether it be optics or gun manufacturers on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect them. I love them. I appreciate them, and I don't want to see them go away. I want to
Right.
see this continued evolution of technology. But like I said, at the end of the day, too, we have to also recognize. I'll take Montana as a great example. Montana, if you draw a general elk tag in Montana or deer tag, you get 6 weeks of archery and 5 weeks of rifle.
It's a lot.
And the 5 weeks of rifle is through the peak of the rut for deer, by the way. And of course, the elk 6-week season is through the peak of the elk rut. So you can hunt for 11 weeks straight. Not straight. Sorry, there's a week break in the middle. But you can hunt for 11 weeks and try to kill your animal in 40 to 60% of the real estate of the landmass of Montana. It should be hard. That's it. Like at the end
Sure.
of the day,
That's a long
if you're
time to
gonna
hunt if it's not
you
hard.
have 11 weeks of opportunity, it should be challenging. If everybody gets one, the truth of the matter is we have to cut tags.
Right.
That's the bottom line. If everybody gets one every single time, we cannot sustain what we're currently doing.
So I have a question for that. Is it possible to have a different solution? Can we? I've mentioned it multiple times on this and most of my life. It's like we have to start looking at this resource like it's fishing, not like it's hunting. What are they doing in fishing? How are they resolving this problem in fishing? They're growing fish and putting them in the water. Is that an option that we have? I mean, is that as someone in the position that you're in, because you see all these things more than I ever would. I opt for some kind of a position where we're breeding deer, elk, etc., and putting them out in the wild, so there's more of a resource, rather than we need to figure out how to lower the success rate or lower the barrier to entry or something, right? I envision a world, and part of why I talk about the things that I do and make myself so public as I do is I want your grandchildren, my grandchildren,
That's
to
where
be
I'm
able to
coming
hunt.
from. I know what
Right.
you're saying already.
And I get your solution and I get it. But I want them to be afforded the opportunity that I had. And what I have now isn't what I had 10, 20 years ago.
Sure.
It's different.
Right.
Right. How do we fix that? And the only solution that I can personally come up with is we need to have our resource dollars go into something that actually creates more animals. That's my solution mentally. Is we need to be putting animals back into the ecosystem at a greater rate rather than limiting the
Literally
success.
never heard that argument before.
Yeah.
Which
What
is-
about animal habitat?
Does that make me smart or dumb? Which is it?
It makes you interesting.
It's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's
I've
interesting.
caught.
Well, what do they do with fishing?
Have you ever caught a farm raised fish next to a native fish?
Yeah, sure.
There's a significant difference in the genetics, and it's different. Like a 30-inch steelhead caught from the ocean versus a 30-inch steelhead with a clipped fin it's a very different experience. It's probably like 50% less fight. And
Would you rather not go fishing?
I would rather.
Question. That's the right question.
That's the right question.
I would rather facilitate the development of those wild steelhead, which in steelhead situation mainly means providing access to the spawning areas that the steelhead used to be able to get to and the small gravel beds that they used to spawn in. It would make their, whatever you call that, better, their reproduction better, because you are getting a genetically less superior product from that. So it's an interesting idea. I'm not shooting it down. I'm just saying
what's a fish's life expectancy in that in the game system, like a steelhead, for example? How old are steelhead that are caught?
They like 2-year and 4-year fish, basically.
I'm not sure.
They either come back at 2 years or 4 years old. I think.
Yeah.
Could be wrong. Again, disclaimer, I do
Yeah.
not know.
Yeah,
I'm not a wildlife biologist and certainly not a steelhead biologist.
Yeah.
I'm simply
But they
referring
do have
to
a return rate.
yeah, I'm simply referring to raising an animal to the extent that it will function on its own and letting it go
It's interesting.
out of a safety in a safe environment to where you're not losing any to predators at that age, as fawns or whatever. Why in the world aren't we looking at it like they look at the the fishery? One, fishing is accepted widely across everybody for the most part. Not everybody, but more than half. And that's a safe thing to say, right? More than half of the world accepts fishing as an acceptable practice.
Oh, fishing for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Fishing is
Does more than half of the world accept
largest
hunting as an
sports
acceptable?
activities.
No, I would agree with that.
No, and why is that? Because our resource dollars, et cetera, go into putting them in there. And I think just about anybody knows that, or the majority of people know that, right? I mean, people know that we're raising fish and putting them in the water.
There's a lot of it's an interesting idea for sure.
Right.
But there's a lot of spurs that can generally become a problem. Like you get like wild caught fish versus farm raised fish. A farm raised fish has a different nutrient profile.
Well, I think a farm raised fish that you're referring to, in the instance you're talking about, is actually butchered in a farm. I mean,
Let's
get
be
an
clear
animal
here. Are we
to old
talking
enough to
about
function.
A hatchery fish, or are we talking about an actual farm raised?
I'm just
I mean,
saying,
'cause
that,
there is
I'm
a
saying there's a
very
different
big
nutrient
difference.
profile.
There's like
and
3. There's a wild, there's hatchery, and there's true farm raised.
Yeah,
right?
he's
Which is
talking
what most
about
of
a
the
hatchery
tilapia-
I'm
fish.
talking about creating a hatchery
He's talking about
for
hatchery,
game.
but what I'm saying is there's a different nutrient profile, and the same goes for cows. The minute you start to introduce a cow to a grain-fed system, which
moo
could,
cow.
which could happen, because why wouldn't they want to grow animals fast? You could just give them grain, but then they would have a different nutrient profile versus a animal that was raised in the wild. All I'm saying is Mother Nature, my perspective is Mother Nature's really good at doing her job if there's given the opportunity, which means, the landscape, the vegetation, the things that the animals need to thrive and survive. Mother Nature's undefeated.
Oh no, I don't.
Animals
disagree with
are
you.
successful in spite of a lot of what they've had to go through.
I don't disagree with that,
Yeah.
Tim. I really don't. But the reality of it is we've
Yeah.
overhunted it. I think that's what you're getting at.
We've over successfully hunted it.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's
Hunting
the
in and of
solution?
itself doesn't hurt anything.
The solution is what?
Harvesting.
The solution
has
is either
a
we don't
limit.
hunt as much.
Yeah.
Right.
How much can you harvest? How
Yeah.
much is sustainable?
The
Right?
solution is either we don't hunt as much, or we figure out a way to put more animals into the hunt.
Yeah.
No, there's a third one.
What's your third?
The third one is we're not
As successful.
as successful.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, but aren't they
And
always
what's
doing
happening
that
right
though?
now is
Or
we're-
a fourth one that you develop the areas that we help develop areas habitat, which
Or
is
we
difficult.
eliminate a lot of
That's
predators.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hey, while we were driving out here today,
Mm-hmm.
right? I told you it's been at least 10 years since I've been to Spokane Valley Archery.
Habitat's a little different.
Yeah, and we're driving along. I'm like, dude, without my phone, I could not get here because everything has changed. Everything I know,
Do you need another beer?
I'm half. I'm good.
Grab one more.
Everything I know from before has been
100% difference.
cut in 80%.
Yeah.
I literally told you I could have hunted a whitetail on this ridge because you would see them or whatever else, and now it's like houses.
It is.
So we do have another problem, and
Well,
and
we do.
habitat is a very real consideration.
In all fairness, the lion's share of the land in the United States is unpopulated. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Across the whole United
The
States,
whole
I
US.
don't know. I don't know enough. I'm one thing about me. I'm careful to not step out on a limb with a saw when I don't know what I'm talking about.
You've been public longer than I have. I'm a little risky.
So like I don't know the answer to that because when I think about like the East Coast, I'm like, man, I think all of it's populated. But of course, I'm wrong.
From the Mississippi River to the West Coast, there's not a lot.
I would agree with that. The Great
And that's a
Plains
big chunk
is
of dirt.
Huge area.
Right?
So full circle though,
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is we're all okay with high fence fish, right?
I don't see a problem with that.
Literally, the majority of the fishery
Mm-hmm.
supporting initiatives in the U.S. Wildlife and the specific state governments,
Mm-hmm.
they're raising high fence fish.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Cranking them out in thousands to the various lakes, and people are catching them and going home and eating them or whatever else.
Yeah.
We're not very okay with high fenced hunting.
No.
And I'm not saying that that's what you're arguing, because I know that's not what you're arguing.
No.
But there's a twist of that in there where it's saying you're going to create a bunch of animals for us and release them into wild
The
habitat.
ecosystem.
But at the end of the day, it's still going to have a little feel to that. I honestly think it's a mistake to not, and this is really going to be unpopular in a lot of the hunting fool realm. I think that, negative sentiment toward high fence hunting is wrong.
I agree.
Unless you're a vegan. If you're a vegetarian or a vegan, great. I support you. I don't care. If you don't like hunting and or high fence hunting or anything else and you don't eat meat, okay. But if you eat a moo cow and you're not okay with the fact that Tim killed his elk on a private estate, I think that's wrong. I think it's hypocritical.
It's 100% hypocritical.
For me.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I've never killed one. I've never hunted an estate. That's not true. I did in Africa.
Yeah.
Right? I hunted Africa in, I think, 06 or 07.
Yeah.
So I guess I have. But I don't hunt estates, but I don't also have negative feelings about it.
Yeah, I feel that.
I'm going to get your venison in a high fence versus at Smith's. Great.
I'm in support of any way done legally.
Yeah.
I think there's no need to judge how a person gets their food to their table or goes hunting if it's done legally.
Yep.
Yeah. If you're eating meat, which is 97% of the United States, right? 97% of people eat meat.
Is that true?
It was off Rogan.
Or is that
Hope
just-
it's true. Hope it's true. I heard
Rogan?
that.
Young
Are you
Jamie?
listening?
Oh no, sorry. I take that back.
Young Jamie?
That was campaigns. That was
Oh, okay.
campaigns.
All
That was off of campaigns.
All right,
but
boys, go
97%
check
of
your
the,
facts.
But if they're not eating meat,
So,
they're likely...
if my facts are not accurate, that is Cameron Haynes' fault. You can let him know I said it.
All right.
That's fine. But my point is, and it's the argument I've always
I would
made.
believe
in this,
it, though,
It
by the way.
is. It should be. That'd be pretty close. But my argument with any of that always is, who's more guilty, the assassin or the guy that hired him?
Sure.
If you're buying meat from a store, you're the guy that hired the assassin.
Yeah.
And if you're
And
not...
if I'm going and hunting it, I'm the assassin. Who's worse?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not eating meat, you're likely endorsing some type of meat product, a leather belt.
You're probably responsible for a lot more dead
Many
animals.
of the purses, there's a lot of things that are made with some type of meat product or
Animal
byproduct,
product of
animal
some
product.
kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
If you're not eating meat, you're responsible for way more dead animals than I am.
it takes life to make life.
You are.
Regardless of,
Plow a field, how many animals die?
yeah.
What, shrews, snakes, mice?
Baby
Those
deer.
aren't baby deer. They're not animals.
They're real people too.
Thousands.
Right.
Thousands to plow a field.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? The birds eat good, though.
I think where I'm going with my take on this is that we spend a lot of time. So I haven't killed an animal with a gun. I'm sorry, this isn't true. I've killed 2 animals with a gun in the last 21 years. Everything else has been with a bow.
Yeah.
Both animals I shot with a gun, I initially shot with a bow.
Gotcha.
Just being honest. They were during any weapon seasons. I choose to bow hunt exclusively. I made a bad shot in both cases, and I followed up as quickly and humanely as possible with my gun during an any weapon season. So I want to be super clear about that. But I like to bow hunt. I prefer it. I do think it's more challenging. It feeds a part of my soul that's important.
Sorry. Okay. My bad. I might be jacking with the audio.
You're
Keep talking,
good.
Jared. Sorry.
No, you're good. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Having said that, I still feel like at the end of the day, the act of hunting is 2 parts to me. One is the emotional connection and the kind of like the primitive connection to the act of hunting, being in the wild, all that kind of stuff. The other part is very much I want to fill my freezer and I want to eat good, clean protein.
Right.
And so if you get that protein through whatever means is legal and whatever else, I'm good with it. I don't care how you got it. No matter what my view on how I get mine is.
Yeah. Your preference doesn't need to be my preference or Josh's
No.
preference, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is
And
the
even
meat?
as
how-
it relates to this whole hunting equation in general and like weaponry restriction in general, I don't want anybody to think that it's just because, well, I'm a bow hunter. That's not what it is. It's because I think that hunting is an important part of our culture. I think it's an important part of our heritage. I think it's an important part of raising new humans into understanding how nature works.
Yep.
And the more we cut our nose off to spite our face and reduce our own opportunities, the less we can do that for our, I have a granddaughter now. She's almost a year old. Dude, she's the apple of my eye. I want to take her out into nature and experience this kind of, if she wants to, right? I'm not going to force her to hunt, but I want to introduce her to it if I can. And I don't want to live in a society where we can't.
Well, and that's just, God, it's hunting so much a connection. You look at like Rogan's a really great example. Like he was either going to become a vegan or he was going to hunt for the rest of his life.
Right.
And he did it once, felt that connection to the reality of what you're doing, and that was it.
Yep.
It's just, until you've experienced it, one, I don't think anybody can judge unless you've tried on anything, regardless. But I wish it was possible.
Meth.
We've got meth. Yeah. Well, who knows? I haven't experienced it. I don't know.
I'm guessing, but I would say maybe throw that one out.
But I wish everybody had the opportunity to experience it at least once, then decide you don't like it. And that's fine. That's great. But the system as it is won't support that. Like if everybody woke up tomorrow and said, I'm going to go hunting next year, everything would die. There would be nothing left.
True.
Right?
With the current seasons, tag allocations, weaponry, etc.
Yeah, because what percentage of people are hunting overall? It's not a big percentage.
Yeah.
Right. So you can't just send that out there and hope it works out. We run into the same problem that my lifelong concern, which I know we've talked about it before, is that we're going to overuse this resource and then there's not going to be anything left, which related back to how am I supposed to have a functioning archery shop if people aren't hunting? Because 90+% of people coming in my door are coming in my door because they hunt.
Right.
Like, how's that going to function? So it's been something that's racked my brain and racked my mind my entire life as a large concern. And I've looked at every other option and every other thing, and that's the only one I could come up with is, well, we've got to do our part to raise animals to put them out in the wild so there's a greater amount of resource. Because the only other option is just everybody stop hunting for X amount of time or make it so hard that the success rate's so low that there eventually becomes enough animals. But if we're not managing predators, it's hopeless.
Now he's opening a whole nother can of worms.
Well, if we're not, we're screwed. Like there is no way to resolve this problem if there's not predator management. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're a bow hunter and you want to kill deer, elk, etc., and you're not hunting predators, you're part of the problem. You have every access and every opportunity to hunt predators. Well, it pisses me off. I hunt predators every year, all the time. Yeah. Like you have to, if you care about the future of this and the success of this, you have to hunt the animals that are hunting your prey that you want to kill. You have to do your part. And everybody has access to that. Everybody can buy a bear tag. They're cheap. Everybody can go coyote hunting. You just need a hunting license.
Wolf tag.
Well, not here you can't. Apparently we need 10,000 of the things or something before you can start going hunting.
Yeah,
but
I write the
everyone has to
section
do that.
for our magazine every year.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
We're almost there.
Yeah, they say that every year. It's like,
year.
how many do you need? Oh my God.
How many breeding pairs?
But and states that are allowing their public to make the decisions on what fish and game needs is crazy, which is what Washington does. Like you can't let people's feelings dictate
to a certain
science.
Extent.
Yeah, that's true. It's getting worse.
It's worse in states like Washington, for example. But all states do that to a certain extent, right? Yeah. In a perfect world, we would manage wildlife biologically, exclusively, and not politically.
Yes,
for sure.
But unfortunately, politics enter the equation,
and we don't live in a perfect world. Yeah,
with predator management.
Yeah,
and people love fuzzy wuzzy animals with fangs and claws. I don't understand that because when I watch,
it's called Disney, man.
A pack of hyenas.
It's called Disney.
Even Disney. It's like even when you watch like the old Mutual of Omaha wildlife series, when it was the Wild Kingdom. I think that's what it was. called, right?
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Yep.
You
watched that way back in the day. And it's like you've got half the people rooting for the gazelle and half the people rooting for the lion or the cheetah.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I'm going to root for the gazelle every time.
100%.
Because that's a pretty miserable way to go. When you're going to get dragged down and eaten half alive. Like that's the reality of it. But we kind of ignore that part of it. I don't know. I think in general, our infatuation with predators is unhealthy, and sort of the Well, I try to categorize this whole conversation in like 3 categories, right? There's the true antis. They hate hunters. They hate anybody who thinks about hunting or killing an animal, etc.
Probably hate guns too.
They probably hate guns. Yeah, I mean it's a very very, very concrete operational mindset in that category. Yeah. Then there's a huge portion of our society in America, I'm talking specifically in the United States, that's sort of semi-neutral, right? They eat meat and they know they eat meat. And so they're like, okay, if Tim kills his and eats his, but they're not out trying to kill their own. And then there's the pro-hunting community. And I think for us, what we're trying to do is make sure that the neutral population doesn't get further turned away from the idea of hunting and harvesting on your own, right?
For sure.
And so that's where I go with this whole notion is like, they don't necessarily have to come hunting with us. They don't necessarily have to hunt on their own. Back to your point, like let's say hypothetically there's 150 million Americans that are pretty neutral to hunting. If they started tomorrow, I don't get to hunt anymore.
Right. It's over. The game's over.
And it's not for everybody either.
No.
I heard like an old school Jim Shockey thing. He said something like 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10 people got the hunting gene. That's probably complete bullshit. But that's about the amount of people that are just like fired up to go do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just know when they start, they're like, it's not like a thing for most people that the snowball slowly rolls.
Right.
They like go out and like, oh, I was kind of meant to do this. Or they see it happen and they're like, God, there's just something inside me that's like
Rogan to your example.
Yeah, to his example. He wasn't like slow rolling. He's like, he did it. And all of a sudden he's like, oh God, there's something in me, that fire. And, maybe that's why more guys than ladies tend to hunt. Maybe that's an evolution thing. I don't know. But I don't think it's not meant for everybody. I would certainly support everybody to try it, check it out.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be everybody that does it. It's just like you said, we want everybody to be aware of it in a light that's fair.
Yep.
Like what it is, it takes life to make life.
Yep.
All of these things that kind of get clouded and politicized and maybe hidden under agendas, that it's just like, if we just paint it in the real picture it is, like hunters aren't going out and killing stuff right away. It rarely happens that way. It usually takes a lot of days. It usually takes a lot of effort and resources. Those hunters usually spend a lot of money in people's towns before they get their animal. Like they're an important part of the economy, an important part of the ecosystem.
And the funny part about it, hunters are responsible for less animals dying than most other people. Did you know that?
I believe it.
Well, 100%. Like if every animal was equal, it's not even a contest.
Right, because the beef consumption would far outweigh the animals that...
Well, and the animals that die in the process.
What it takes to produce
what it takes to produce what they're eating. Like what it takes to produce what you're eating costs you more lives. Like if I can kill 2 elk a year, 2 animals die a year for me. How many animals are dying a year for somebody buying their food at a store? Like ridiculous amounts. It's not even funny.
Right.
When you actually...
But I don't think any of us are picking on that either, right?
No, they're not.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of the day, it's just like return the favor. If we're not picking on you for the fact that, the 10 acres that it took to raise X, Y, and Z pieces of protein.
Exactly.
And killed voles and mice and grasshoppers and snakes and everything
on top of whatever protein that you're eating that also died.
In addition to the animals.
Yeah.
If we're okay with that, then we want you to be okay too. And that's where, coming back full circle, where I was going with this is on the predators. You look at predator management and what people, that 80 percentile, the people that are kind of neutral tend to, I guess, revert to, or kind of like lowest common denominator to, is live and let live. Thank you. Yeah.
It's all right.
Maybe one too many shots of the Tito's here. I don't know. But live and
That's
let
one of
live.
my favorite recent sayings. Live and let live.
Yeah. And the problem is that you look at right here in Spokane Valley alone, all of the riparian areas are habitated by humans.
Right.
We have fences and roads, and they cannot live here anymore.
Yeah.
And so we've pushed wildlife out into these fringe areas. The best places on planet Earth are North America.
Fair.
More specifically, the United States of America.
Yeah.
Are all inhabited by man. And we have developed them, we have fenced them, we have roaded them, etc. And those are also the places where elk and deer could run to the river, like Spokane River, for example, and get away from a pack of wolves that was trying to attack them, because the elk had the high ground, literally, because they're taller and whatever else. We've killed all that opportunity. Yeah. And so this notion that the middle population has that we should be able to live and let live and kind of let the predator prey cycle play its way out, we've already screwed it up. So we have to participate. We have to manage the predators.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I hadn't heard that before.
Well,
we've completely wrecked it. There's no opportunity for it to neutralize.
On the predator.
Because we live there.
The predator issue too. Like you're like, why is it people have a problem with predators? What are coyotes?
You mean harvesting predators?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are coyotes?
Josh,
hold on. What are coyotes?
Predators.
Dogs.
Yeah.
What's your pet?
Oh, yeah.
What are cougars? Cats. What's your pet?
Right.
It relates to their pet, so they feel sensitive.
Bear in here, though?
Well, I don't know. I don't know why they got a problem other than Teddy Roosevelt and the teddy bear.
Half dog, half cat.
When no,
Climb a
but
tree.
who knows? But when supposedly, and this is another Joe Rogan thing, is that like they were trying to research when the bear all of a sudden became a problem to hunt. Is when Teddy Roosevelt was president. They came out with a teddy bear, and everybody had a teddy bear.
That's where teddy bear came from?
It's Teddy Roosevelt.
Man, you know all kinds of either true factual stuff or total
that's
bro
Rogan.
science.
That's Rogan. Hands off. That's Rogan.
Man, you keep throwing these guys under the bus.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Young Jay came up with.
sense.
It's the teddy bear, and ever since then, it's been like some kind of an issue to hunt bears because a lot of kids grow up with a little teddy bear.
My hesitation on what you were saying earlier about raising animals is I haven't seen a successful example.
I don't think Tim likes my idea.
No, it's all right. It's good. It's okay to have different opinions. But I haven't seen a successful example of people tampering with Mother Nature that worked out well for the long term. A specific example, Idaho introducing wolves. Another specific example, I grew up in an area where hatchery fish were released all into the bay, okay? Mm-hmm. All of these hatchery fish were genetically far less superior than a wild fish. 5-pound fish to 5-pound fish, you're talking less than maybe half the fight. In Michigan, for example, often they would introduce a mini caterpillar to mess with this insect that had been a problem. That mini caterpillar became a problem. So I just haven't seen an example of like an introduction from human to wild that was like a net positive. Thus far, is what I'm saying. And I know what you're saying could be slightly different because it's not a predator. It could potentially be, but.
So let me revert it back for a second then. Let's say we find 1,000 deer in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
And we put them behind a 10-foot fence and we let them breed naturally and just remove the predators. So they're not losing animals because a percentage of animals are going to go predators every year. And then you turn around and let those animals back out. They're grazing through fields. They're going through timber like they normally would, which we have a lot of national forests. We have a lot of public land. We have a lot of spaces where aren't really inhabited by animals because we've overhunted, right? So what's the problem with putting up an 8-foot fence around that, letting a group of those animals thrive for 5 to 10 years, and then opening up the fence?
That could be a good solution, particularly for like it's basically like a wildlife.
Unit.
You're basically like a wildlife sanctuary, right?
Yeah. Pick a unit, let them thrive, keep the predators out.
Particularly if it was done that way without the human interference of the diet, of how they were raised and exercised and things like that, because those human interferences tend to create a far less different animal.
But by restricting the fact that we can't really effectively hunt predators anymore and allowing more predators into the ecosystem, aren't the humans already fucking it up to begin with?
Yeah.
Because humans are making these decisions and allowing this.
Yeah.
Is that fair? I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't kill a wolf in Washington. Haven't been able to for X amount of years. You can't hunt a bear with bait or hounds anymore.
We lost the spring season.
We lost the spring season because somebody's feelings got hurt. We can't hunt cougars with hounds, which is the only effective way to hunt a cougar, right?
Yep.
You add all that.
How many of them without hounds?
How many of those? How many of those animals are out there eating deer and elk? All of them, right? How in the world do you expect this to get fixed? You can't.
What I like is that there's people that care, that have conversations like this. And
I don't care how many people hate me because of this. This is reality. And I've watched it my entire life. There is no solution to this. Either you eliminate the predators or you put more animals into the system.
Well, let me rephrase what I think you're saying.
You making me more gentle?
We reduce the predators. We don't.
I don't eliminate. I don't need to eliminate. Sorry, fair. Thank you.
So I want to be super clear. Like tomorrow, if you gave me the wolf button that said, if I hit this button, there's no more wolves left on planet Earth. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to hit that button.
Well, but should we have Alaskan gray wolves where they've never been and they've never populated and they've never functioned? Because that's what we got. We had timberline wolves. I still got the book when I was a kid that explained where animals are, where they exist, and where they're from. Those wolves are not from here.
Genetically, they're not the same.
They're not.
I would agree with that.
They were northern Canada and Alaska.
We've
I've got
done
the
that
book.
all over North America, New Zealand, you name it. So I don't know that we can completely revert out of that. So then it's just a question of, can we manage it in a way that's sustainable for both wildlife and for humans? And at the end of the day, it's weird because we get in this weird spot where we think, okay, I'm a human, so I have to take last place in this whole thing. It's like, no, we are the top of the food chain.
We are first place.
I don't care how we do it. And so we have to, but we also have the logic component connected to that. And so we can still protect a mountain lion and make sure that mountain lions exist and live and thrive and do all the things that mountain lions do without giving up our entire ungulate population.
Yep.
Right.
We can do both.
Yeah, there can be balance.
And we should do both.
Well, and there was balance.
We're stewards. Like,
yes.
You know, I know this is going to sound like archaic and old school or whatever you want to call it, but we are stewards of wildlife and the land and all the things that we do. And if we don't think about it that way and recognize that that means that we have to balance those who eat and those who are eaten, then we're wrong.
Well, and I think, you know, that's the cool thing is every hunter really cares about what's on the landscape and the wildlife. Just like every logger I've met really cares about the forest.
About trees.
And the trees.
Right?
They're not things that, it's not a pillage kind of deal. Like everybody wants more animals. Loggers want the most sustainable use of the renewable resource of making things that are needed. You know what I mean? So and that's one thing I wish, you know, like you said, the middle ground, that would one thing I would hope the middle ground would be able to see and understand is like the people that are involved with the resource want what's best for it. They don't want to see it disappear. No. And you could pull extreme examples and be like, oh yeah, this redneck here did this.
Right.
And yeah, there's a bad egg anywhere you look. But as a whole, the people want what's good for the landscape. And like you said, we want 20, 30, 40 years down the road, we want there to be equal or better opportunity.
Well, there's no excuse for not having better. I mean, we're smart.
Yeah,
right?
Super smart.
How in the world are we not paying attention to this?
Yeah, and our population isn't growing at that alarming of a rate any longer, both globally and in the United States.
Elon's concerned. Elon's concerned
we don't
we're
have
not.
enough.
Correct.
Yeah.
Elon thinks we should all run around and breed everybody.
Smartest guy in the world says run around and breed. You know what I mean?
We run around and breed. I'm like,
so,
well, if I must.
Yeah. If I must. Dude, I think it would be a disservice not to, you know, when I was on a ship and we're out in the ocean bobbing through waves, you told me you drew like one of the world's sweetest tags, man. How did that hunt go last year? Your sheep tag, right?
I got annihilated.
You did?
Yeah.
I don't know the story. Is it worth telling?
It was, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing hunt. I hired Randy Johnson, who I can't say enough cool things about.
And what kind of sheep was it? It was a desert sheep. Desert sheep
in
tag.
Utah.
Yeah.
21 years of applying. And I hired one. I've never hired a guide, by the way, in the U.S. I did one semi-guided hunt in Illinois, and then Africa. So for me to even hire a guide was a big deal, but he was amazing. Literally, the dude was carved out of the desert floor itself, you know. So much lore and experience. Loved hunting with Randy. We filmed the hunt. It will come out on our YouTube channel. It's going to be the last one Brady releases this year because his word's not mine. It's the hardest one to edit because I didn't get one. And
how am I supposed to make this look good?
15, at least. I mean, it was a 21-day hunt was the whole season.
Yeah.
And we hunted at least 15 days. There was a 5-day stretch where, I mean, I had some of my, I'll get choked up if I talk about it too much, so I'm going to be careful, but I had some of my best friends in the whole world supporting me with glass and fuel and just like they wanted to be there with me because they knew what like a monumentous event this was. And
that's
we had like a 5-day stretch where we didn't see a sheep. And I'm not talking about a ram. I'm talking about a ewe, a lamb, nothing. It was a really, really, really tough hunt. I had about 4 good stock opportunities, 2 of which the wind absolutely, did what wind does to bow hunters.
Yeah.
You're closing the gap. You're in the
Eats you
zone.
up.
You're like ranging your target animal. And like one of them was just a big, beautiful ram that was like the sheep of a lifetime. I'd look for, I would want to look for my entire life since I started applying for sheep. And the wind switches and they're gone. And they're not just gone. I mean, these sheep, they know what a human smells like. And
Miles.
holy crap, it's something else. And then I had one amazing stock opportunity at the last minute that Austin Atkinson dug up for me. And again, I'm not going to lie, radios are legal in Utah. We're using radios. We're in-reaching each other. Like,
resources.
We're using all the tricks, right? I'm sitting here on one hand, I look like a total hypocrite because I'm saying less technology, make it tougher.
You're referring to that only on general tag. So
Correct.
This is not a general tag.
I'm talking about.
So you're not being a hypocrite at all.
This tag takes you 21 years to go get, and they only issue 2 in the entire state of Utah, right? 2 resident only, archery only tags in the entire state. And so I'm using all the tricks, and Austin dug up a ram, got there, ran down the hill with a cameraman right at dark. I mean, it was like last minute. We sprinted out. They thought I was going to die. My cameraman looked at me and he goes, "Are you going to be all right?"
Cameraman's name is Brady, right?
Yeah, Brady. Get there, sprint down the hill. It's dead quiet. It's the only night the whole time that the wind didn't blow. And we're walking on these little like eggshell rocks that just sound like hell no matter what you put on them. And I had been stuck in the stupid Dirty Devil River the night before, that morning, and was soaked from like the mid-thigh down in like 3-degree weather. So like all the worst conditions. I had to strip my boots off to close the gap on this stock. And I'm like, dude, my feet are going to fall off. Like they're literally going to turn black and fall off, but I don't care because this is a desert sheep and I've waited for a quarter century to do this.
We're good.
Close the gap. It was a textbook stock. And when I popped over the rim, there was the ewe and the lamb that were with the big ram or the good ram. 22 yards. I mean, as close as you can get. I'm ranging her horn going, oh my gosh, like, where's he at? Where's he at? And then when I finally got back to Austin, we didn't have communication while I was stalking. He's like, dude, that thing about 15 minutes before you got over the rim just decided he got bored, walked off and went down in a draw and left our lives forever. So we had all kinds of opportunity that was no excuses. The bottom line is I didn't get it done. There was another guy. The other guy did kill a giant, like a beautiful 9.5-year-old ram. It can be done. Mm-hmm. I've had other personal buddies that have done it. I didn't get it done. So I bawled like a baby. Brady, like in Tim fashion, the last night, right at there's 40 minutes of daylight left. We made a huge long stalk, keeping the wind in our face, taking my shoes off, all that kind of stuff. And just couldn't even turn up a sheep. And I had guys glassing everywhere. Nobody saw a single sheep the entire last day. And Brady's like, all right, give me an update. And I kind of gave the brave face, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, tell me the truth. And dude, I just lost it. Like, boo, like, boo, baby. I'm like, dude, it's not even because I don't think I'm going to kill a sheep because we're down to like 30 minutes of daylight left. It was because the best people in my life were around me. And that's like
what it's
full
about.
Circle with all of this.
That's what it's about.
That's where I want to go is like, if hunting is harder, we're still all going to do it because we want to share those moments outdoors with the people that we love and care about. And we want to make memories that last a lifetime and they're not just fleeting. 80% of the stuff I've done in the last week, I will never remember 2 years from now.
Right.
But I guarantee I'll never forget most of the days on that hunt, even though I didn't kill one.
Well, that's the reality of hunting. It's not killing, it's hunting. And hunting, like myself and my cousin's brother-in-law, his sister's husband, we both took a week off to go hunting with him when he drew a good tag. Mm-hmm. Neither of us were going to kill anything.
Right.
None of us will forget any of those moments. No matter what, because it's not about the killing. It's about the camaraderie and the effort and the struggle and the loss. And hopefully it ends up being the positive outcome, but it's the
mornings
experience.
And the
Just
hot days and
just killing yourself, hurting yourself, putting yourself in a position for pain. But the success is the hope, but the camaraderie is what you remember.
And seeing things that people will never ever see, because they would never put themselves in those positions at daylight or pre-daylight or be hiking out in the dark.
Yeah.
That's not on the trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
No, we spent 8 days looking at Bora Peak every day.
Yep.
Places that most human beings will never set foot on.
Beautiful, by the way.
It is
I've
gorgeous.
spent plenty of time around Bora Peak.
It is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And just struggling like crazy. Like, where the hell are all these? Is anything other than on this private chunk of ground at the bottom here where there's 400 bulls screaming at each other? Yeah. Like, oh my God! But yeah, that's what it's about. Mm-hmm. I mean, who in their right mind takes a week off of work just to go watch somebody try? But a hunter.
People who understand what this is all about.
Understand what it means.
Yep. No, it honestly is so good for the soul.
Oh.
And then therefore it's good for your kids, your grandkids, your friends, your associates, because it does change who you are.
It does.
When you do hard things. And when you do hard things with failed results, you don't quit. You just come back with more resolve.
No, the struggles in life make us who we are, and the harder the struggle, the greater the reward when something's good. Mm-hmm. I remember, like, when my dad died, my brain at some point, because I've always been really good at finding the good in everything, was like, man, my next really good moment's going to feel incredible because of how hard everything before was. That's why we need the struggle. That's why we need the failure. That's why we need the pain. Because if everything's good all the time, it doesn't feel good anymore.
Well, and that's why we need opportunities to hunt.
Right.
And to have opportunities to hunt.
Nothing shows you that better.
It has to be tough.
100%.
Otherwise, if it was easy.
All right. 50-50, but we still probably need to add animals because this is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know how to add animals. Yeah. That's because I'm probably more on Tim's team here with ungulates. I don't know how humans get involved and don't taint it. I mean, there was the Starkey. I don't know how long these are supposed to go, but I'm
an hour. We're past it by a ways, but that's all right.
All right. So there is the Starkey Experimental Forest in Oregon. Are you familiar with that?
No.
And I'm going to be way out on a limb with a saw here, so I'm not going to get super detailed on this. But, they've had a lot of, in that particular instance, I believe that a lot of it was established to try to figure out what the forest does, what the land does, what the animals do, with more of a Truman Show. You guys remember the Truman Show?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
With more of a Truman Show approach.
Good morning, good evening, and good night.
to how humans impact this, right?
Yeah.
So we've done some of it, but at the end of the day, ungulates are a really tough animal to raise and treat in that way. And part of it too is disease and all these other kind of things too. So
sure.
I don't know what the right answer is, but I do think that we need to have opportunity. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be super, I guess, concise here.
Facts, Jack.
We need opportunities. Otherwise, we don't recruit anybody.
Right.
My granddaughter, Georgia, will never hunt if we stay on the current trend that we're on.
Right.
I shouldn't say that. She'll hunt once every 10 to 20 years,
Fair.
right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't like that.
I hate
that. I think as sportsmen and women, we owe it to our group of conservationists to do better than that. To say, all right, if we have to handcuff ourselves a little bit here, we should do it. So that my granddaughter, Georgia, can have an opportunity. And that somewhere down the road, if she chooses to have kids, her kids can have opportunities. And the way we're going right now, and it's human nature, we're too selfish to do that. And so anything that's legal, and again, I'm not criticizing people for this.
No.
Anything that's illegal, we take advantage of, but we need help. We need to help ourselves.
Sure. No, I agree 100%. But if you're gonna go that route, you can't ignore the hunting populace ignoring the predators.
Correct.
Right. So if you want to improve it, you got to improve it everywhere, and that has to be paid attention to.
Well, and that's that journey from like when you first start transitioning into becoming a hunter. It's hard to understand that I have a role as a predator manager and I'm trying to look for an ungulate to harvest to eat.
Yeah, don't complain to me that you can't find a deer if you're never hunting a predator.
But it's really common though for
it is 100%
for initially to not feel that way. It just takes time.
It's evolution.
Yeah.
Well, you see that fire, Jerrod?
I think it's been out for a while.
Yeah, no more campfire
out.
here.
Yeah.
Jerrod's actually got a real business people can go and support.
We never did get your title. What is your technical title?
Cheese.
I like cheese. That's great. It kind of sounds like
technical.
that. No,
At Huntin Fool.
I'm the CEO at Huntin Fool.
Okay.
It's a great service, right? You guys help people kind of demystify and help them be more successful,
Right.
without being encyclopedist.
Shorten the learning curve by
You know.
a long ways, people.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pay attention. It's important.
I drew a Nevada mule deer tag. I want to talk with you guys about like how that, how I don't have to go down there and spend days scouting and shit to just help facilitate hunting, Western big game hunting, largely, right? Yeah.
Our mission statement is we want to help people go on more hunts with better information. It's literally that simple.
That's great. That's simple.
I want you in the woods more, and I want you to have the best possible information to make the most of your hunt, from gear to where you should be spending your time.
And they do a great job of that, people.
For
Please
sure.
go pay attention. We'll link it in the video.
For sure. Links below.
Links
Subscribe.
below.
Gotta subscribe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.